All right, now we're on to empathy. Now, empathy is in a different part of the brain. So everybody grab your finger for me. All right, I won't make you do anything weird, I promise. All right, we're not having a cocoa party here. Right? So do me a favor. I want you to point as far right to your head as possible. As far right to your head as possible. Yeah. All good there? Great. Just give a little bit of a wiggle. Right? So that is called your TPJ, otherwise known as your temporal parietal junction. You can stop fondling your head now if you like. Right? Unless you really liked it. Yeah. So your temporal parietal junction is the part of your brain responsible for empathy. You know when we talk about left brain and right brain? This is as far right brain as it gets. So believe it or not, so you do have your, you've got your hemispheres of brain across the corpus callosum. The left brain, which is stage left for you guys, right? The left brain is where you do your processing and logical thinking. The right brain is where you do your emotional connection and thinking. And that's why you generally find the likelihood of artists being left-handed is much higher. Anyone left-handed in the room? Everyone else just go gross. Gross. Have you ever seen a gay snake? It's my disapproval. Right? And so a left brain activity is something. So if you are an accountant and all you do is work on Excel all day, every day without a lot of human interaction, then you are going to be a left-brained person. If you are, and the reason why right-brained people tend to be left-handed is because that's the dominance coming through. It swaps over. So your likelihood of being more left-brained comes from your right hand. So, long story short, right? Those two hemispheres make a difference. Now, when we're talking about empathy, if somebody, the brain is actually really, really interesting. And so, and I read this is a book called Mindsight by a psychologist called Daniel Siegel. And I thought this was really, really interesting. So do you guys familiar with the concept of cross-training? Yeah. So cross-training is like, so NFL players, like American football players, would do ballet. They'd train ballet in their spare time. Why? Because of the balance and flexibility that you would get. And you can actually do that with your brain. Because if you want, just like, your brain is just like any other muscle. The more you use the various parts of it, the stronger that part of your brain is going to get. And so theoretically, if you want somebody to be better at processing, you'd want them to do more math. Or if you want somebody to get better at empathy, you'd want them to work out that part of the brain. The problem is it's very hard to practice empathy if someone doesn't really understand empathy. Does that make sense? Yeah. That's like if someone doesn't know how to swim and you just throw them in the water and you're like, yeah, just swim, bro, just swim. That's them drowning. It's quite serious. Many people die each year from drowning, guys. Can you not? I don't care. Right? And so the idea is it's very, very hard to get someone to practice empathy. But if you want to increase their ability to empathize, you just have to swole up that part of the brain. And there are other ways that different parts of the brain have multiple uses. So I'll give you an example. If I bicep curl, and let's say I can 1 rep max like 20 kgs on a bicep curl, right? And then I don't do any more bicep workouts, but I do closed grip chin-ups. Becky, you can help me with this. What part of the body does, you're a gym junkie, you know this. What part of the body does closed grip chin-ups mostly do? Lats. It's your lats, right? Thank everyone, give back here a round of applause. Right? So that's chin-ups is a back exercise, but because I'm still activating my biceps while doing chin-ups, then if I do 8 weeks straight of close grip chin-ups to failure, if I then go and want to do more bicep curls, I'll be able to 1 rep max 30 or 40 because I'm still engaging that part even though I'm not doing that exercise. Do you guys get me now? Yeah. And so we're talking about how to get someone using their right brain more if they are not particularly good with empathy or if they have narcissistic tendencies. Is this going to be useful for you guys and some of you? Can you imagine a rep right now that this would be useful for? Yeah. Great. So how this works. So the cause of PTSD, and this, I know I seem like I'm going off topic, I'm not. The cause of PTSD is in order for a memory to lodge correctly in your outside human brain, it needs to process through your hippocampus. So something will happen, you'll experience it, the hippocampus will pull it through, and then it'll lodge, it'll then go from the hippocampus into the right brain into what's called experiential memory or autobiographical memory, and then cross over and lodge as a factual memory. So the example here, so factual memory is I broke my arm in 2014. And the autobiographical memory is I was jumping on a trampoline and I just slipped and I just felt disoriented and I hit the ground and I heard this snap and I felt this searing pain come through my arm. That's autobiographical. And so your brain will then will pull it out through your limbic system into your right brain and then into your left brain. You guys with me so far? Yes. You guys finding this interesting? Is this cool? Yeah. Okay, cool. Now, what happens sometimes, let's say if you're like really drunk or if you're in a serious sense of trauma, or if you're so overloaded with things that you're not, present in the moment, sometimes those memories will get lodged in your limbic mammalian brain. What's the problem with that?
You re-experience it as if it's happening.
It does not have a sense of time. There is no past tense in the mammalian brain. So it thinks you're constantly experiencing that, which is how PTSD happens. So if somebody, that's why people have flashbacks, because their brain thinks that memory is happening to them still because it never processed it correctly. And so there's two really, really valuable things here. Number one is that can happen with little things as well as big things. And that's why who's here has been really stressed out and then just talked to someone about all their problems before. Has that worked? Has that made you feel better? Yes. That's because experiencing those problems pulls them through the hippocampus into the right brain, into the left brain, where now it's just something that happened and it's not continually bothering me. Really, really interesting is this is why, people talking about psilocybin and MDMA therapies in particular for veterans, this is why it works. Because if you load somebody up on a bunch of pingers where they can't be sad, and then you get them to walk through those experiences with you, you can then have them relive those experiences without them going into that shock panic. And it actually solves it. That's why it works, and that's why Robert F. Kennedy is going to make our country great again. Yeah. So, very, very interesting stuff. Now, how the hell does that affect you? This is actually really easy. Journaling. And I don't just recommend this for your reps. I recommend this for you because it does two amazing things. Journaling every night. When I say journal, it's not, "Dear diary, today Braden told me my jacket looked good," right? That's not what I'm talking about. I do that. I'm not expecting you guys to do that, right? But what I'm talking about is what happened today? How did it make me feel? You take your 3 to 5 most important things that happened through the day. What happened? How did it make me feel? Because what will then happen is you'll process those feelings, and not only does that then help you keep a level head more often so you don't get overwhelmed as much. I promise this works for everybody, top down, right? But also, when does your RAS load? 80% of your reticular activation loads overnight. So if you're evaluating your day effectively and know what you need to improve on, I've always said, people know how many sales they're going to make the night before. And if you make a habit of journaling every night, you're loading your brain overnight. It's a good habit, and it's not that hard. And you find that you do it for a week, and you're like, "Oh, this is cathartic." That means it makes you feel better. Vinny. No, I'm just kidding. Right? So, and this is the big one, is you've got to make sure you're following up and seeing if the guys are actually doing it. Because just like anything, if you're not following up, Patrick had a great analogy. He said if they didn't charge you for speeding tickets, would you stop speeding? If they didn't check if you paid your taxes, would you pay your taxes? So following up to make sure. So if you've got a rep who isn't particularly empathetic, this is what we've got to be doubling down on, is making sure they're actually journaling. Now, why does this work? Because experiencing autobiographical memory strengthens what part of the brain? The TPJ. That's your empathy center. So just by experiencing things in an autobiographical way, perfect example, Chris, you've been writing basically an autobiographical style book. Have you found that you've been a better partner or father?
Yeah, it's extremely meditative. And
He's getting a workout in his emotional center by experiencing those things. So, and we actually had this, Dean was one of our TLs for a while, and great guy, literally diagnosed with clinical narcissism. Diagnosed with it. And the doctor said there's nothing you can do about it. And then he came to me, he said, "Doctor said I can't do anything about it, but I know he'd probably find something." And this is where it came from. We got him doing it. 3 months later, he hit TL after not being able to sustain a single rep because he didn't care about him enough. This stuff actually works. Cool?